and I pray that everyone I am meeting is doing extremely, extraordinarily well. First and foremost, wherever you're joining me from, let me know you can hear me, whichever platform you are in. If you can hear me, let me know in the comments that you can hear me. And let's literally just engage right now. Let's literally take the poll and ask the first question. And that first question is going to be today, because I've got a lot to share with you guys, which I think is going to be insightful. I think it's going to be helpful. But let's first start off by asking, where are you joining us from today? So let me know inside of the chat, guys, where are you joining us from? Are you in Australasia? Are you in Asia? Are you in America? Are you in the UK? Are you in the US of A? Just let me know, guys, where you're joining us from before we jump into the session today. Because today I'm going to be speaking about broken or broke. And it's interesting because we live in a world where many people are dealing with this question. Effectively, they're attempting to do things and things aren't seeming to work the way they want them to work. So they're thinking, well, hold on a minute, if things aren't working, then maybe it's them who's not working. So in today's session, what I want to be revealing to you, what I would love to be sharing with you is basically an insight into maybe the reason some things are not working. And for most of you guys, this is actually going to be the reason. You're literally going to be saying, wow, Samuel, if only I knew this before. So guys, let me know where you're joining us from before we jump in. And then I'm going to, as I typically do, jump into my traditional questions that I usually like to start opening each and every session with, all right? And guys, if you're on any platform and we're bugging out, we're delaying, we're twitching, there's no audio, there's no video, just let me know as well, so I can basically make sure that you guys are seeing everything as you're supposed to be seeing it, all right? So here's the reality, right? Here, let me start by asking the question. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been attempting to do something, but it just feels like whatever you're doing is not working? If that's you, just write in the comments the word me, okay? If you've ever been in that predicament, if you've ever said to yourself, you know what, I've been trying, I've been attempting to make this happen, I've been saying this is gonna happen, but for some reason, it's just not happening, okay? If that's you, just write in the comments the word me, okay? Because oftentimes I find that that's people's situations. Oftentimes I find that's people's stories. And often I find people seeing themselves in those kind of settings. And just to give you like a personal story, in 2023, one of the things that I've been sharing recently, I flew my whole family, including my mother-in-law, all 5 of my children at the time, and my wife all the way to Florida in order for us to engage in part training, but part holiday in terms of just development and learning, right? And growth and potential and prospects, right? And when I flew back from Florida, what I didn't realize is I was experiencing something which most people would term as something like a burnout, right? And it's interesting because one of my coaches, Dr. Myron Golden, he talks a lot about seasons of balance and seasons of focus. And what I experienced was effectively a season of hyper focus, so much so that when I tried to come back to a season of balance, I didn't know how to get balance. I ended up in an imbalance, all right? So if you've ever been in a situation where you've attempted to do something and for some reason it always feels like you're hitting a brick wall in that zone, just write me in the comments so I know that I'm not alone. Now, second thing, which is married to / mirrored to the conceptual idea of what I'm talking about, is if you were in a position to understand what the roadblock was, what the actual brick walls were that were stopping you, would you want to do something about it? Okay, and if your answer is I would, then throw I would in the chat, right? Because that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 reasons, and it really holistically stems from one reason, but I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 reasons which people are facing brick walls in what they believe to be the biggest areas and exploits of their life, okay? So if you've ever faced a brick wall in an area or an exploit in your life, if you've been someone who said to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna become financially free, or you're someone who said, you know what, I'm gonna go for that job promotion, or you're someone who said, you know what, I'm gonna go for that date to become my wife or my queen or my spouse or hubby or whatever it is for you, right? In this session, we're gonna basically be unpacking why, based on science, based on nature, based on history, based on law, that may not have worked for you. So if that sounds good to you, someone just write in the comments the word good, so I know that that sounds good to you. Now, with that being said, I want us to jump straight in because this is going to be super helpful for those of you who are live, and maybe even more so helpful for those of you who are watching on a replay, because you're going to be able to go back and over this again and again and again. All right, so let's jump in. Right, to start with, I want to talk to you, I want to share with you, basically it's like a little story, right? But it's like a history story. So please bear this in mind because this is a true story, it's real, okay? Now, in the year 2000, we were told something. In the year 2000, we were told we were entering a specific age. If anyone knows in the chat, whichever platform you're on, let me know what age they told us we were entering in the year 2000, okay? Because I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, we had the dot-com boom, we also had the bubble, we had the bust, we had one big thing that was happening at the time. They were saying that all the clocks, they didn't know what was happening with the clocks. Would the clocks recognize that we were shifting from 1999 into 2000? Would we be fine? Like all of those things were happening at the brink of the millennia, right? When we was going into the year 2000. Now, for those of you who don't know, what they said in the year 2000, when we transitioned from 1999, 31st of December, into 1st of January 2000, was we were entering the information age, okay? And if you're someone who's taking notes, just write the word down, information, okay? Information. Now, you might be thinking, Samuel, why is this relevant? I'm gonna share with you exactly why this is relevant. Now, when we entered the information age in the year 2000, something very, very powerful happened, okay? And I'll even illustrate this for you so you can see it exactly the way it occurred, because most people don't have a clear understanding that A, this occurred, but how this occurred, and more importantly, the impact it's had on many people, right? So in the year 2000, they told us we was entering the information age. I'm just gonna say info age, okay? Just so that we understand what I'm talking about. They told us we were entering the information age. Now, what they did is they told us what we were entering, but unfortunately, they never told us what it means, okay? I'm gonna say that again in case I was a bit fast there. When we entered the year 2000, they told us what we were entering, but they didn't tell us what it means. If someone understands what I'm talking about, just put yes in the chat so I know that you guys are with me. They were telling us what we were entering, but they weren't telling us what it means. So I'm here today, not only to share with you the 3 roadblocks that most people are facing in terms of their finances, in terms of their families, in terms of their faith, but the reality is I'm also gonna be unpacking for you what happened in the year 2000 when we entered into what they called the information age, or the info age, if you wanna call it that for short, where they told us what we were entering, but they didn't tell us what it means. So let's break it down. Okay, and for those of you who's taking notes, this is going to be super impactful. So again, if you're taking notes, just throw a pencil emoji in the chat, or just say I am in the chat so I know that you're with me on that level. Now, it's the year 2000. We go from 1999. Everyone's worried about whether the clocks are going to turn over to year 2000. And then we go into the year 2000. They tell us we're entering the information age, but they don't tell us what the information age means. Here's what the information age means. Prior to the information age, okay, let me even ask this question. If I wanted to buy a book, okay, I've got some books here. Let me grab this book right here for you guys to see what I'm talking about. If I wanted to grab a book, if I wanted to buy a book, okay, prior to the information age, someone told me in the chat, roughly, how much would a book cost me if I was buying a book before the information age, okay? Now, the thing that's interesting, and the thing that they didn't tell us when we were entering the information age, is exactly what this means. What does the information age mean? So that's what I want to unpack for you, because that's going to be the foundation for you to understand where we're going with this in today's session. And not only that, for you to now have a stronger grasp, got to get that P in order for you to understand how to utilize this to move further faster in your future as well, okay? So hopefully that sounds clear, and hopefully that's super helpful for you as we go deeper, right? So the information age was a time where when we entered it, they told us what we were entering, they didn't tell us what it was. Here's what it was. The information age was going to be the first time that the amount of information, the supply of information, was going to far exceed the demand for information, okay? Now you might be thinking, Samuel, that doesn't make sense. How do you get that, right? So let me break it down, okay? In business, and I'm gonna use business because business is an easy way to demonstrate this so you can get the deepness of this like facility of what occurred, right? In business, there are 2 component structures always at war, okay? And if you're someone who's not in business, you will have no idea conceptually about what I'm talking about. But if you can bear with me and get through this business analogy, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about for how it relates to your life. So in business, there are 2 components that are always fighting against each other. What are those 2 components? If you know, throw it in the chat, right? The first component is known as supply, okay? And for those of you who are like, Samuel, you are not a Picasso, what are you drawing? This is a set of scales, okay? Just to be nice, right? So on the scales in business, there's 2 fighting components, always fighting against each other, always battling against each other, always going head to toe with one another. And those 2 components that are always battling in the world of business are supply, and those of you who have got it, the other one is demand. okay? So in all business ventures, in all business endeavors, if you're talking about trillion-dollar valuation companies like Apple, if you're talking about billion-dollar valuation companies, you're talking about Airbnb, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. I'm here to tell you that in all business cadres, whether you're talking about micro millions, millions, billions, trillions, we're talking about always the same thing. The same two opposing factors are operating, and they are supply and demand, or supply versus demand, or supply with demand, whatever you want to call it, right? So your question might be now, well, Sammy, why is that important? Okay, this is why it's important. When supply goes up, okay, I want you to see this. When supply goes up, and demand goes down, okay? When supply goes up, supply going up means there's lots of this product, there's lots of this thing is readily available, anybody can get it. When supply goes up and demand goes down, let me tell you what happens. The price goes down, okay? So supply going up, price going down, the price goes down, okay? When supply goes up and and demand goes down, the price goes down, okay? And this is very important to understand, especially if you're a business owner or if you work a job, right? Especially in this day and age we're in right now. In this day and age we're in right now, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's concerned, well, some people are concerned, and rightfully so, about their jobs, their livelihood, about technology, about what they're going to do, about how they're going to do it, right? I'm here to tell you something. If you do not understand the fundamental basics of business, i.e., there is a pendulum between supply and demand, and how they work are determining factors in how you are going to be able to work, you are going to have a problem. But if you're someone who's wise enough to understand, hold on a minute, supply and demand, I understand how it works. I understand the battle between S and D. And because I understand the battle between S and D, now I can truly see, guess what's going to happen? Everything is going to be fine for you. So in business, and we're using business as an example, there is a consistent battle. Welcome to the live. Everyone who's jumping in, welcome to the live. There is a consistent battle between supply and between demand. And if you understand the battle between supply and demand in business, it makes everything easier for you. You stop being the person worrying about, will AI take my job? You stop being the person worrying about, will I end up getting robbed? You stop being the person worried about all of these things, even in terms of relationships. You stop being worried about whether my mate is going to see me as valuable or are they going to lose interest in me. Let me tell you something, even inside of your employment, you stop worrying about, will my boss still want me to work here? In terms of your health, you stop being worried about, am I going to be able to cut weight if I want to cut weight? Why? Because you understand the fundamental metric inside of business, which is supply and demand. So you might be asking, okay, Samuel, I get it now. I get it, all right? There's a fundamental battle going on between supply and demand in everything. How does that relate to the information age? This is where it all gets good. In the year 2000, we entered something they called the information age. They told us what we were entering, but they didn't tell us what it means. Let me tell you what the information age means. It means for the first time we were entering into an environment. For the first time we were entering into an ecosystem. For the first time we were entering into an equilibrium. Welcome Simply Mandy to the live. We were entering into an equilibrium where for the first time the supply of information was going to far outweigh the demand for information. Now, if you understand what I just literally broke down, I want you to just write in the comments, I do. And the reason why is because that piece of understanding is fundamental to where we're going in this life. And if you understand what I've just shared with you, guess what's going to happen? A, you're going to understand everything else I'm about to share with you. But more importantly, you're going to see how you can change your life by not being blocked by the same barriers that are blocking everyone else. Okay? Now you might be saying to yourself, Samuel, you know what? I don't think the barriers that are blocking everyone else are blocking me. I'm a special kind of cookie, right? Well, let me tell you something. The only reason people are broke, okay? The only reason people are broke, I see you, Mandy. We'll break it down a bit more. The only reason people are broke is because they're following the broke formula, okay? And I'm going to tell you what the broke formula is to help you understand that you might not actually be broke if you understand what I'm about to share. You might just be in a system that's broken. So let me help you with that. Broke stands for bypassing, rich, opportunities, knowingly, and this is the key, the people do it knowingly, okay? Every day. I want you to think about that. Broke means bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every single day. So the fundamental ideology that I'm sharing with you here is if you understand that someone being broke is a byproduct of their decisions, if you understand that someone being broke is based on them bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every single day, they are making a decision to walk past the rich opportunity. They are making a decision to not take hold or grasp of the rich opportunity. They are doing that every single day. That's why they're broke. Now, here's the funniest thing. Some people might not know that. Some people may not have known prior to this live, prior to this session, that, oh, Samuel, the reason why things haven't been working for me is because I've been bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every day. I've been making that decision. Okay, that's cool. Guess what can happen? You can change, right? But here's the challenge. Some people know that and they've decided, you know what? I am actually going to take the rich opportunities every single day, but things still aren't working for them. And they might be asking themselves, why they're not working? I'm here to tell you why they're not working. The reason they're not working is because most people have become committed to something which has been devalued. Okay, someone write in the comments, devalued. So I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Most people, I'm going to say it again, have become committed to something that has become devalued. So obviously you're probably sitting there thinking, Samuel, if most people have become committed to something that's become devalued, what's the thing that's become devalued? I'm so glad you asked. Let's break it down. In the year 2000, we entered something that they told us what it was, but they didn't tell us what it meant. That was the information age, the info age. If you guys are getting it, just say, I'm getting it in the chat. When we entered the information age, guess what happened? We entered for the first time a experience, a ecosystem, an equilibrium, a time where for the first time ever, the value of information had gone to zero. Now you might be thinking, Samuel, the value of information has gone to zero. How? I'm here to tell you, because everything in business works off of the supply versus demand equation. If you have a big supply, think lots of fruit in the market, and a small demand, think nobody who wants to get healthy in the market, then the price of the fruit goes down because nobody wants the fruit. So someone can come up and negotiate and get a great price on the fruit. Someone say, great price, right? Why can you get a great price? Because the value is no longer there. Why is the value no longer there? Because there's no demand for the thing that is in high supply, okay? So that's the first part we need to understand. The first thing we need to understand is when supply goes up and demand goes down, the value, more importantly, the price of whichever commodity, whichever thing we're talking about goes down, okay? Think about that. I want you to think about that in terms of your business. Think about that in terms of you as an employee. If you work for someone and they've got a high supply of other staff, or let's say they've got a high supply of work, but they've got a low supply of people that want to do the work, low demand. Guess what it means? That means your job is super secure. But on the contrary, it's also true. If you work for someone and they have a low supply, a shortage of work, but they have a high demand, a bunch of people that want to do the work, guess what happens? Hello, somebody. Someone tell me in the chat. What happens? We don't have much work here, but we've got lots of people who want to work here. What happens, guys, to the value of the person's job? Okay? Their job becomes devalued. The value in their work, the value for their job is diminished. Why is it devalued? Why is it diminished? I'm here to tell you why it's devalued. I'm here to tell you why it's diminished. Because of the supply versus demand equation, okay? So now that we understand the supply versus demand equation, we understand, hold on a minute, Samuel, you've broken it down. If supply goes up, there's a lot of something, but demand goes down, there's not many people that want that thing, the value goes down. But here's something that's super beautiful. If that's true, that also means that the converse is true. That also means that the opposite is true. That also means the polar of that fact is also true. So the question is, well, what's the polar of that fact? Well, let's start breaking that down, right? The polar of that fact is if supply goes down, and by supply going down, what we're saying is you don't have 1 million iPhones being released on X day, you've only got 1,000 units. But if the demand goes up, so let's say we've got 5,000 people queuing up outside of that Apple store for that one new model that comes out on that day. What do we have? We have an ecosystem where now the price goes up, okay? Now you might be thinking to yourself, Samuel, that's really interesting, right? The price goes up, the value goes up when there is a discrepancy between supply and demand. I'm here to tell you, yes, you've got it. If you've got it, just put in the chat, I've got it, right? Now, the reason this is so important is because of this. Today, in the year we're in right now, okay, in 2025, people are paying laptop money for mobile phones. Okay, I'm gonna say that again, because you might need to pick up a pen. Today, 2025, this decade that we're now alive, people are paying laptop money for mobile phones. Samuel, what do you mean laptop money? What I mean is a number of years ago, 5, 10, 15 years ago, you would not see a mobile phone being sold for £800, £1,000, £1,000 plus. Why? Because that was reserved for laptops. That was laptop money. You pay £1,000 for a laptop. Even tablets, 5, 10, let's call it 15 years ago, you would never, 15 years ago, heard of a tablet being sold for £1,000. Now, that is the rage. That is the norm. You would never have heard a phone, like the kind of phones, and look, let me even give you this as an example, right? I worked in Car Phone Warehouse in, I can't even remember the year now, maybe like 2005, 2006. So I've worked in a store where we've sold phones. I was literally working in a phone store when the rollout of the first iPhone came out. And prior to the first iPhone coming out, even the first iPhone didn't carry that weight in terms of the price I'm talking about, but prior to the first iPhone coming out, the phone that would sell for the most, right? There's 3 phones I can think of that carried hefty price tags. There was the 8800 by Nokia, or Nokia, as the UK guys call it. That 8800 was that phone that just would slide, the top would slide up, right? I believe that phone sold for like £800. Then there was the Sirocco, which was a version of the 8800. I think that phone probably hit around £1,000, 999, somewhere around there. And then there was this next phone that they used to sell in Harrods. I can't remember the name. If anyone is in the chat and they know the name of what I'm talking about, I think the name began with a V or an N, Vibo or something like that. This phone apparently was made of gold, right? So that phone, again, I think at the time was maybe about 1,000 or maybe even 14,000. I might be wrong, right? But it had a hefty, it was in the thousands, the price tag of that phone. So in my time having worked in telecommunications, I only ever witnessed like 3 to 5 phones that ever hit a price tag of 1,000 or 1,000 plus pounds. Now, here's the thing that's super interesting about what I'm sharing. Those phones were kind of like, quote unquote, you might call them elitist phones. Those phones were not going to be in the hands of every and any person. Whereas today, you can go and see a 15-year-old carrying a £1,000 iPhone. You can go and see a 12-year-old carrying a £1,000 iPhone. And many people who you work with right now are carrying £1,000 iPhones. So what changed that? Like, that's a question we should ask ourselves. When you see a fundamental change in society, you should be asking yourself, what caused that fundamental change? Why should you be asking that? 1, because you're privy to the fundamental change. It's going to affect you, and it's definitely going to affect your children and your children's children if it doesn't affect you. The second reason why you should become interested in that change is because if you're a business owner, the same way that change was able to catapult a company like Apple into being the first $1 trillion business in the US of A, and then later the first $2 trillion worth valued business in the US of A, is the same way that your business, even if it doesn't become a $1 trillion business, your business could exponentially grow from an incremental insight. So I want you to be mindful of this. So what was it that shifted the value of phones from the price of 100, 200, 300 for a device to 1,000, 1,300, 1,500 for a device? What was it that twisted it? What was it that shifted it? It was this thing right here. It was the relationship between supply and demand that was created, that was conveyed and that was used to catapult, that was used to catapult them prices up, okay? Jai, let mommy know, okay? Good boy. So once you understand that, guess what happens? Everything changes, all right? Everything changes because you start realizing, well, hold on a minute. If I can actually create a new price tier for my products, if I can actually catapult my prices to a whole new way, if I can find a way to convey my prices in a way that I've never been able to convey them before, guess what? Again, everything changes. If someone understands what I'm talking about, just write in the comments, I do, so I know you guys are getting this, okay? Because that's what happens, guys. We went from paying £1,000 for laptops to paying £1,000 for phones, and we don't understand why. This is why right here. It's the discrepancy of literal supply and demand. So the question you're probably asking right now, I hope you're asking, if you're on the same vein as me, would be, Samuel, well, if supply and demand can have that impact, how does that relate to my life? So glad you asked, because now we get to go into the good stuff, or what I feel is the good stuff, right? So in the year 2000, shared it before, I'm going to share it again. In the year 2000, we entered something which they told us what we were entering, but they didn't tell us what it was. What was that? It's the information age. In the information age, what it actually means, what it means to be in the information age is to be for the first time in an environment, in a time, in an encapsulation where the supply of information was going to far exceed, not slightly exceed, for the first time, far exceed the demand for information. Now, what does that mean? Let me help you understand what that means. That means if you have access to the internet, where you can literally search anything, if you have access to the internet, where you can literally find anything, if you have access to the internet, where you can see anything, you are in a world where information is now being supplied at a rate that far exceeds the demand. Why? Because there are not enough people trying to find everything and anything at any one time. So this is what happens. This becomes the discrepancy. This is what this is meant by you are entering the information age. Now, why is this so powerful? This is so powerful because this happened over 25 years ago. 25 years ago, we entered the information age, which was for the first time where supply of information far exceeded demand of information, and many of us didn't realize what effect that was going to have. So let me break it down to you. Let me start to help you see the exact effect that this has on you and on me, on most people, okay? Especially people who don't have a clear understanding of how this is affecting them. Because guys, I'm here to tell you something, right? If you understand how this affects humanity, in your business, everything will change. In your employment, everything will change. In your property endeavors, everything will change. Like things will just start changing. Because you'll no longer be someone who's broke, bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every day, and you'll start being someone who understands how to make things work, all right? So let me rub this off as I start breaking this down. All right, now, the way I love to describe this, because I think this is one of the best ways to describe this, is by drawing a house, because the house is going to basically illustrate all of the aspects of what I'm talking about. So let's draw a house to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, okay? All right, let's do this. All right, so here's the house. Now, this house specifically has 4 rooms. So I'm going to draw 4 windows to illustrate these 4 rooms. Now, we start in every house on the ground floor. So we're going to start here on the ground floor. Now, the first thing I want to bring to your attention is this word, the information age. They said we're in the information age. Someone throw in the comments, information age, okay? So I've just shared with you that the information age was the first time we've entered where the supply of information far exceeds the demand for information. So that means we're in the information age, okay? Now, why is this important? I'm going to tell you why it's important. If you wanted to buy a book 30 years ago, okay, so just before the information age, how much would a book have cost, okay? A book 30 years ago would have cost you roughly, I'd say, £10, okay? Now, if you want to buy a book today, how much would a book cost you? Okay, someone tell me in the chat, how much would a book cost you roughly today? Okay, now what's interesting is if you were buying a book in 2025, if you were buying a book in 2020, if you were buying a book in the year 2000, let's jump 20 years back, right? Let's even jump another 20 years back. If you was buying a book in 1980, let me tell you something that's interesting. If you were buying a book in 1980, if you were buying a book in 2000, if you was buying a book in 2020, if you're buying a book this year, a book will cost you roughly £10. So a great question to ask ourselves is, if I was buying a book in 1980 and it will cost me £10, and I was buying a book in the year 2000 and it will cost me £10, and I'm buying a book today and it will cost me £10, here's a question. How comes nobody wants to pay for information? Because I can just get it on the internet, as many people say, but people still pay for a book. Okay, now scientifically, fundamentally, that brings us to a kind of a roadblock, right? Hopefully you understand that brings you to a roadblock. Okay, if you understand that brings us to a roadblock, just write me in the chat. Because I want you to think about that. If people feel as though all the things they need, all the information they want is easily accessible, is free, I can just get it on the internet, then surely that means that books should be devalued as well. Books should be worth zero. No one should be paying for a book, okay? But I submit to you, I bought a book a few days ago, which came in the post. I submit to you that I buy books on a regular basis. I submit to you that many of you who are watching this, who are tuned into this, whether it's live or on the replay, you are buying books. So here's a question. How comes universities are still selling books, still recommending books? How comes people are still writing books, still selling books? How comes books have retained their value despite the fact in the year 2000 we were told we're entering the information age, an age where they told us what it was, but they didn't tell us what it means. And I'm here to tell you the breakdown is what it means is we are entering into a time where for the first time, the supply of information was going to far exceed the demand for information. So how comes books retain their value? That should be a question you're asking yourself. If it is a question you're asking yourself, just write in the comments the word me, because I'm about to answer it. The reason why books in 1980 would have cost you roughly £10 to buy, books in the year 2000 would have cost you roughly £10 to buy, and books in the year 2020 would cost you roughly £10 to buy is because of something you find roughly on the third page of a book. Now, I've got a book here. I'm going to go to roughly the third page, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm going to show you why even in the information age, when information became devalued, worth nothing, because I can just go find it on Google, or I can just go find it on YouTube, and everybody started to realize that for the first time, the supply of information was going to far exceed the demand for information. The reason why books have retained their value in a world where information has lost its value is because of this thing right here. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if we can get the focus on it. Because of this thing right here. Now you can see this in the camera. This is called the contents page. Okay, someone write in the chat the word contents. Now, let me tell you what the contents page in a book proves. Okay, let me tell you what a contents page in a book reveals. Let me tell you what a contents page in a book showcases and shares. A contents page in a book showcases and shares that a book is not mere information. A book is information with organization. The reason why in 1980, a book would cost you £10. The reason why in 2000, a book will cost you £10. The reason why in 2020, a book will cost you £10. The reason why today, if you go and buy a book, it would cost you £10 is because when we entered the information age in the year 2000, where for the first time, we entered the age, they told us what we were entering, but they didn't tell us what it meant. When we entered the information age, the time where for the first time, the supply of information was going to far exceed the demand for information, and thus the value of information went to zero. The reason why books remained keeping their value is because books are not just information. So if you've been going through life saying, Samuel, you know what? I don't know why the things I'm trying to do just don't end up pulling off. I don't know why when I attempt a new endeavor, I don't ever make progress ever. I'm here to tell you the answer to that. The answer to that is because you have been hoodwinked into focusing on information in a world where information has no more value since the information age. And you haven't realized that there's more value in organization when mixed with information than information on its own. If that was helpful for someone, just write me in the chat. Let me see if this is even just helpful. Because I want you to understand what I'm talking about here. The reason why people who aren't broke are experiencing broke experiences is because they're working with a broken system. It is possible for you to not be broke, but to be using a broken system and to experience the results of being broke. I'm here to tell you today what the broken system is. The broken system, and I know this because I used to be a teacher. I know this because I worked in schools. I know this because I got a master's in teaching. I know this because I used to teach teachers how to teach before I replaced my income using property and other wealth strategies. And guess what I realized? I realized, hold on a minute, the school system was keeping us broke, not because it was making us broke, but rather because it was giving us broken systems. And this is one of them. One of the core broken systems most human beings have is to seek after information, which, like I said, in the year 2000, they told us what we were entering, but they didn't tell us what it meant. We entered into the information age where for the first time, the supply of information far exceeded the demand for information. So if supply exceeds demand, what happens? Value goes down. And that's what happened to information roughly in the year 2000. In the year 2004, we have the inception of YouTube. Guess what happens? The supply, the value, the supply goes up more, the demand goes down more, the value goes down. If someone's getting this, just write in the comments, I'm getting it, because I want to know that you guys are getting this. So the challenge is, we live in a world now where people have been addicted to information, but haven't realized that the value of information is zero. So if you are chasing something which has no value, guess what's going to happen? You are devaluing yourself. You're de-skilling yourself. You're de-equipping yourself. And this is the broken system. The broken system is not someone's going to take from you. It's not someone's going to steal from you. It's not someone's going to make you broke. It's they're going to allow you to make yourself broke by allowing you to focus on the wrong thing. You're focusing on information. The reason why you can find any piece of information on the internet for free is because information no longer has any more value to you and to me. So you might be saying to yourself, Samuel, wow, that's super deep. I get it now. Like, information has no value. So if I'm focused on using information to change my situation, that's not going to help. That's not going to work. So then, Samuel, are you saying that I should focus on reading books? Are you saying that books are the answer for me? Are you saying that I should focus on organization? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just showing you that another room in the same house, besides information, which has lost its value, is organization. But there's more. If someone's ready for more, just write the word more as we go deeper. So the year 2000 marks a pivotal point in life, because in the year 2000, we entered the information age, the time where they told us what we were entering, but didn't tell us what it meant. What did the information age mean? It means you're entering a time, an ecosystem, you're entering a time, an environment, you're entering a time, an equilibrium where the supply of information for the first time would far exceed the demand for information. And we know from business, whenever supply far exceeds demand, the value goes down. So information lost all of its value when information became freely available to everyone in a very easy and accessible manner. Okay? Hopefully you guys get this. Now, the reason why books retain their value despite the fact that information became readily available is because books have one thing that all of the Google searches you do don't have, that all of the YouTube searches you do don't have. I know so many people are like, oh, I'm just going to learn how to invest in property on the University of YouTube. Okay, good luck with that. And I don't believe in luck, so you know what I'm really saying. The reality is, the reason why that stuff doesn't work, the University of YouTube, to change your situation, is because it's providing information, it's not providing organization. Books hold their value because of the simple fact that they're providing organization with that information. By virtue of the fact a book has a contents page, you know what that means? It means the author, which comes from the root word of authority, someone who's an authority in that realm, in that area, took time to create authorship and describe, define, and deliver to you a specific, organized series and set of information. This is why someone can read a book about property and make more progress than someone who's going to look about property online. If this is helpful, someone let me know. So this is the reality, guys. The reality of the world we live in is some people have become addicted to information instead of realizing that what they need more than information is actually organization. This is why when I've met people in the past, let's talk about the 3 years that I hosted one of the largest property networking events in the whole of the UK, right? I'd meet hundreds of people. Most of them were seasoned landlords. Some of them were brand new to property. And they would say, Samuel, I want to learn about property, but can I learn online? And I would always say to them, yeah, you can learn online. Of course you can learn online. You can learn anywhere you want, any way you want. But here's the reality. There are some ways you're going to learn which are going to be more valuable than others. Information is a way to learn. YouTube, Google, now people are using ChatGPT. They are ways to learn, but they all come under the information cap. This is why something as what we perceive as powerful as AI, as powerful as ChatGPT, has been given to you for free. Don't think like, guys, when you think to yourself, like, why would something as powerful as ChatGPT just be rolled out for free? I'm here to tell you why. Because it's just more access to more information which lacks raw, real, deep value. Someone's catching this. I literally felt someone catch this. That's good. Let's go deeper. So information is where it starts, but organization is where it can go. Now, how does this get deeper? Let me tell you how it gets deeper. It gets deeper for those of us who understand the placement of information, clearly see the position of organization, and thus start to recognize there's another step, there's another flaw in this house. What's the other flaw in this house? Let me show you. Things don't get good until you tap into the flaws I'm about to talk about. First flaw, what's in this flaw? Association. You see, association is a whole nother level to organization. Association is a whole nother level to information. Let me share this with you. Association is the reason why you will find coaches, teachers, you will find mentors charging tens of thousands of pounds for you to learn what they can teach you in order for you to earn what previously couldn't reach you. You see, we live in a world, and guys, if you are getting value throughout this live at any point, just hit the share button. Let someone else get the same value you're getting. Activate the law of reciprocity, right? Samuel's doing this for me, I'm going to do it for someone else. Listen, let me help you understand this, right? If you are addicted, if you spend all your time just chasing after information and never actually seek organization, you will never be able to change your situation. But if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to change my situation, I'm going to tap into information, but I'm going to focus on organization, guess what? You may moderately be able to change your situation. But if you're someone who really divinely wants to deeply discard your current situation and end up in a whole new predicament, a whole new situation, let me tell you how to do it. The first part, the first way, the deepest dive is to tap into association. Association is where we are able to take information with its allotted organization and put it in its right destination. We're able to understand, for example, okay, I'm going to use a property example. Let's say you're buying a house, okay, and let's use this demonstration, this illustration as an example. Let's say you're buying a house, and when you're going to buy this house, you are going to have to make some modifications to the house, okay? Now, the information may be out there on how to go about doing it, but the organization, which step to do, when to do that step, may not be out there on the internet. Someone might not have broken down in a deep dive, guys, this is what you do first, this is what you do second, this is what you do third. So what happens is you end up with all these YouTube videos. One guy saying buy low, sell high. Another guy saying buy high, sell low. Another guy saying don't even buy, just control. You end up with confusion, which creates an illusion, and then you end up in hesitation and procrastination. This is the reason why people don't reach their destination. This is the reason why people aren't achieving in life. Not because they're broke, bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every day. Sometimes, for some people, that's their case. But for many people, it's not because they're broke, it's because they're using a system that's broken. They're attempting to use information to get to their destination and change their situation, instead of realizing they need organization to get to their destination and to radically change their situation. But organization in and of itself can only change your situation moderately. So the question you might be asking is, well, Samuel, then how do I change my situation drastically? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to break it down. The way you start changing your situation drastically instead of moderately, if you start realizing, well, hold on a minute, I need a big change. I need a massive change. I need to go from me to me squared, right? For those of you who know what I'm talking about. The first leg, the first layer of that is to tap into association. Okay, and if you're getting what I'm talking about, just write in the comments, I do, so I know I'm with the right people. Now, what is association all about? Association is where we say, okay, I'm about to buy a house. I know I'm going to need planning permission. I realize the step-by-step organized way I need to do this, but now I can apply, I can take this information and apply it to my situation. I can see how this is going to work. Now, guys, again, I said it earlier, association is the reason why people charge tens of thousands of pounds, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of pounds, in few cases, millions of pounds. I know a coach that literally has a $1 million coaching program. Now, some people might be saying, well, yo, how can you have a $1 million coaching program? That doesn't make sense. Like, what are you doing for $1 million? You changing someone's life? Yes, guys. Of course, guys. For £10,000, people are changing people's lives. Why? Because they're allowing them to tap into association, which is a deeper, a higher level of value than just mere information and organization. Now, you might be asking yourself, Samuel, you know what? This is deep. Like, I see it now. I've been chasing information when really I should be tapping into organization. And if I actually really want a change, then I should be focused ultimately on association, on how I can take my accumulated information, activate assimilation in order to produce application, okay? And for those of you who've never heard my definition of wisdom, okay, I learned this from the Bible, my definition of wisdom is the ability to assimilate, accumulate, and apply the information you take on to a specific situation in your life. That's wisdom. It's the application of knowledge, not just the accumulation of knowledge. Too many people accumulate and can't assimilate. Too many people get to accumulate and assimilate, but can't literally applicate. And I know the words application, but guys, let's have some fun as well tonight. So this is the reality. The reality is people have got addicted to information. Some people have started to tap into organization, but very few people understand the value of application. And it's when we get into association, which is where we learn how to apply application to the information that we are accumulating. All right? Now, here's the question you should probably be thinking about now. Well, Samuel, I get this, right? I get this. I get that maybe I've been looking at the wrong thing. Maybe I've been focused on information. Maybe I've been dabbling with organization, right? And I'll share this quick story with you because it's going to be super helpful. A number of years ago, I was running a property coaching program, and we had this student who joined the program, okay? And the student said to me, he did a testimonial video, right? His testimonial video was 2 hours long. Now, guys, I don't think I've ever seen a testimonial video that long. But in the video, he was just talking about all of the things that he had learned, all of the things he'd been able to produce. Like, it was 2 hours long. But there was something he said near the end, which was so powerful, which is why I'm so grateful I watched all 2 hours. Near the end, he said something so profound, which really changed my life. He said, Samuel, he said, all the property books I read before joining your program gave me the information, but the problem was when I had questions, I had nobody to ask. I want you to think about that. He said, all the books I'd read, Samuel, when I wanted to learn about property, before I joined your coaching program, they gave me the information, but I had nobody to ask. I couldn't ask the author when I had a question to ask. Now, here's a great question. Why? I'm going to tell you why. The reason why is because information is not organization, and organization is not association. When you have cognitive, psychological, when you have mind light bulbs or questions, right, show up based off the information you're engaging with, or based off some organized information that you've dealt with. Guess what? If you don't have any association in terms of a mastermind group, in terms of a coach, in terms of like support, if you don't have a support system, a deeper real life mechanism of support, which some people are now using ChatGPT for without realizing that all ChatGPT is actually another mechanism of information, guess what happens? Everything doesn't work, and it ends up feeling like everything's broken. So guys, let me tell you how to shift everything. The way to shift everything is literally to understand the house, and don't build a house of cards of information, but understand how everything is placed in the house. So I'll go through it again to summarize, and then I'm going to give you the end, which is probably the most valuable piece of this information. And this is just for those of you who stuck around till the end. So let's go. Most people, their chronic problem, which keeps them broke, is the system they're using, which is broken. The system they're using, which is broken, is to focus on information, which is on the ground floor and which is not productive based on all of the things I've said in this live. And guys, if you're just jumping in the live now, love to see you in the live. Great to have you in the live, but guys, go watch the replay so you can get the value. So we are living in a world where most people are addicted to information. Why? Because of statements like knowledge is power, right? And because they're addicted to information, they never ever get real application. They never get value. They never get things happening, right? Because the value of information is zero. Now, what I shared with you is hundreds of years ago, the cost of a book was £10. 10 years ago, the cost of a book was £10. Today, the cost of a book is £10. How do books retain their value when information has lost its value? Books retain their value when information has lost its value because books are not information. The third page of every book, roughly the third page of every book, is a contents page, which is evidence of something. It's evidence that this is not information, this is organized information. That's the O, but still on the ground floor, because £10 is not a lot of money, right? And true, like, application in your life doesn't come from reading a book. Like all of us here, whether you're joining us live, whether you're watching on the replay, guess what you're going to tell me? Samuel, I read a book before, but my life didn't change. And some of you might say, Samuel, I read a book and my life did change. Let me tell you something. Most people who read a book, their life does not incrementally change automatically because a book is organized information, but it's not necessarily association. That's where we go deeper. If someone understands what I'm talking about, just write in the comments, I do. Now, what got powerful is when we take our specs and we don't start focusing only on information and only on organization, but we go up a step in the house and we start focusing on association. How does this information associate itself to me in my predicament, in my situation, with my assets, with my mindset, with my current tool set, with my current skill set? Guess what happens? Everything starts to change. And this is why coaches can charge tens of thousands of pounds. This is why coaches can charge hundreds of thousands of pounds. This is why I know coaches who charge in the millions literally for their programs, because they understand I'm not just selling or providing people with information. I'm not just offering or giving opportunities of organization, but I'm literally providing the association of every incremental piece of this information in a way which has organization in order for you and I to get, I hope you're ready for this, transformation. Because ultimately, every single person under the sound of my voice, what you are looking for in life, what you desire out of life, what you want to have in your life is transformation. It's not nothing else. It's transformation. The reason you search on YouTube to how to fix the toilet, if you want to fix the toilet, right? How to improve my marriage, if you want to improve your marriage, right? How to be a better father or mother, how to be a better spouse. Like the reason you search those things inside your house is because you are looking for transformation. You're looking to change something. You're looking to transform something. You want to transform instead of be the norm. Oh, if someone understands what I'm talking about, just write the word me in the chat. Now, let me tell you why I'm so excited about this when I get to this part of sharing this stuff with you guys. The reason that I get super excited when I get to this part of sharing this stuff with you is for those of you who are watching on a replay or you're with me live, who are seeing the journey of, wow, Samuel, you're right. I've been addicted to information. I need to get off my addiction of information and I need to start tapping into organization. And even more importantly, I need to start tapping into association so I can finally get what I'm looking for, which is my transformation. The reason I get excited is not only because some of you are going to change. Some of you are going to get a value out of this. You're going to utilize this to make it happen. Because guys, look, I've got high-level coaching clients who this one session that I've revealed to you guys, when they understand and they take advantage of, everything changes for them. Because they stop trying to go to the University of YouTube to learn how to do something specific, to learn how to do something nuanced, to learn how to do something niche, and they start realizing how to tap into the higher floors and open up bigger doors. If this is of value to someone write the word value in the chat. Now, ultimately, what every human being wants, what you and I want in our life is transformation. How do I know that? Romans chapter 12, verse 2, the Bible tells it to you and it tells it to me. In Romans chapter 12, verse 2, it says something so profound. It says, do not be conformed, which means left like everybody else. Do not be conformed, which means molded into everybody else. Do not be conformed, which means literally operated on so that you are, as a result, like everyone else. Two, do not be conformed to the ways of the world, but be ye transformed. I want you guys to understand, The term be ye means it's your responsibility, means it's my responsibility. And I don't say this to point the finger, I say this to point the finger that we have to become responsible for our transformation. It says, but be ye transformed by what, ladies and gentlemen? By the renewing of your mind. You see, we have to renew, which means make new again our minds. We have to go to a place in our mind where we say, you know what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if the reason I'm broke, watch this guys, I want you to see this, right? What if the reason I'm actually broke is because there is a higher supply of information and a lower demand of information, and as a result, the value of information has gone to $0, £0, 0 yen, and now it's at €0. That's how they do euros. Now it's at €0. Now that the value has gone to nothing, I've been chasing something that's of no value to me. And I'm trying to teach my children that knowledge is power and that they need to understand all this stuff. But what I haven't realized is literally none of this stuff's even going to work for them. And the reason none of this stuff's going to work for them is because they're chasing the wrong thing. They're chasing knowledge. They're chasing information instead of chasing organization, or even more importantly, if you really want to supercharge and catapult, instead of chasing association. Understanding how the things they're literally focused on work. Now, guys, I'm here to tell you this, right? In a snapshot. I desire for you to achieve what you require. If God has ordained for you to be healthy and whole and wealthy, I desire that for you. The reason why is because I remember what it felt like in 2015 when I worked a full-time job, when I used to take a bus, literal bus, for over an hour to get to work. I used to be around sweaty people, guys, in the first thing in the morning, and I've got a job to do for the whole day, guys. And I'd get to work and I'd feel frustrated. Sometimes my job I hated, and I would literally not want to wait till I graduated out of that experience. But the reality is, I didn't graduate because my boss said one day, hey, Sammy, I'm going to give you this pay rise. I got a number of pay rises and none of them made the difference. Let me tell you what helped me graduate. When I started to go a step above the organization and started to tap into association, I started to associate certain things. If anyone would like me to share one thing I associated, just write the number 1 in the chat, all right? And I'll give you this because I think this one thing I associated alone will rapidly and radically help you, right? So let me see, if we get enough ones in the chat, I'll literally share with you what at least one association that I had, which was like one of the biggest light bulbs when I used to work as an employee. Now, why is this so important? Let me tell you why this is also important. The reason this is also important is because if you're able to apply what I'm sharing with you, if you're able to utilize what I've basically broken down throughout this video, throughout this live, I'm going to share with you something that's going to happen in your life. You are going to stop looking like everybody else. You're going to stop experiencing life like everyone else, and you are going to be able to tap into elements of life unlike anyone else. So going back to the first question I asked at the start of the session, if you have ever been going through situations and you feel to yourself like something is broken and you can't put your finger on what it is, I'm here to tell you exactly what it is. It's the education system. Let's go. Ketty's in the house. The education system has attempted to get us to focus solely, wholeheartedly, fully, and bombastically on information. Some of your friends would encourage you by saying, hey, you should go get this book, which allows us to start thinking about focusing on organization. But ultimately, we need to get to the next floor. And the next floor is investing in ourselves, going on that coaching program, getting out of our house, discovering that mentor, that coach, whoever it is, so that we can start tapping into association. We can start associating the brain cells of this thing going on with that thing going on and what's happening here with what's happening there. All right. Now, Ketty's thrown the 1 in the chat. Guys, throw the number 1 in the chat if you want me to break this down. But Ketty's thrown the number 1 in the chat, and I'm going to honor Ketty, right? As Ketty also, those of you who don't know, Ketty's one of our coaching clients. So I'm gonna share just for Ketty anyway, right? So what I said is, if you guys throw a number 1 in the chat, I'm going to share with you one of the biggest light bulbs I had from the perspective of association
that helped me shift everything in my life, right? And fasten your seatbelt, because this might be like a whole brain walk for you, right? So I was working full time in a school, and one day I sat in that school and I just thought about the most wealthiest people that I was aware of. Okay, so I want you guys to do that right now. Throw in the chat the wealthiest person you are aware of in the world. Like, it doesn't have to be someone you've ever met, but just who's the wealthiest person you've ever heard of. All right, who's the wealthiest person you've ever heard of? No matter what country they're in, no matter what religion they are, no matter what they do for work. All right, just throw the person in the chat. Right. So this was me like 2015. I think at the time I thought about like, who are the wealthiest people I know? Okay, because I'm at that time, 2015, I'm working full time. I feel basically broke, busted, and disgusted. I'm asking myself questions like, why me, why me, why me? I'm living with a whole, I guess, mindset of negativity. I know I have the potential. I know I can be more. I know I can do more. I know I can have more. But the answers for me just didn't seem to drop. The penny just didn't seem to trigger. Like, things didn't just flick. I didn't know why the light switch didn't come on, right? So I'm saying to myself, like, there must be a reason why things aren't working. So that day, whilst I was at work in school, sat down looking at like my computer screen, I asked myself a simple question. I said, who are the richest people I know, right? Because one of the things I believe is that success leaves clues. I believe that wholeheartedly, right? I believe success leaves clues, which means if you follow the patterns and the path and the progress of someone who's successful, you'll see clues left behind, right? And those clues essentially can become your blueprint. So let me share this. So in 2015, I thought to myself, who are the richest people I know? I'm going to tell you the names of the people that I came up with. Oprah Winfrey was one of them. Tiger Woods was one of them. Steve Jobs was one of them. Jeff Bezos was one of them. Elon Musk was one of them. And Michael Jordan was one of them. Okay? 6 people came to my mind. Wealthiest people I knew. And then something hit me. There's another person, Tyson Fury, the boxer. Okay? At the time, Tyson Fury, the boxer, also came to my mind. And then I said to myself, like, it's a powerful thing happened to me, right? I said these 7 names, and then straight after these 7 names came to my mind, a thought came to me. Thought literally shifted everything. The thought was, what do all of them have in common? Okay, someone write in the comments the words common. Okay, because what does that mean? By me asking the question, what do all of them have in common? What I was actually asking myself is, what's the pattern here? And guys, I want you to understand this. I didn't know I was doing this at the time. It's only now, this is over 10 years later, I can look back and realize, oh, that's what happened. That's what I did. Okay. So I had these names that came to mind. I see Elon Musk in the comments. Let's go. I had these names that came to mind. And then I asked myself, or I heard in my head, what do these all have in common? All right. And the next thing that came to mind was the thing that literally created association for me to know the move I had to make, okay? So the question that came to mind after I said these 7 people's names, Michael Jordan, Tyson Fury, Elon Musk, Tiger Woods, Jeff Bezos, let's go, Oprah Winfrey, and Michael Jordan. I think I said Michael Jordan already, but Michael Jordan, Elon Musk, it was another athlete anyway, right? But straight after I said these 7 names, the next thing that I heard was, what do they all have in common? And then the moment after I asked myself, what do they have in common? Or I heard, what do they have in common? I said to myself, they all own a business. They all have a business. Someone write in the comments the word business. They all have a business. Now, if you are like me and you believe in the words that Darren Hardy wrote in his book, there you go. My mind is going blank right now. I don't even know why. But in Darren Hardy's book, he wrote something super profound. He wrote success leaves clues, which apparently people say came from Jim Rohn, right? But if success leaves clues, what is the clue? The clue of all the 7 wealthy people that came to my mind at that time was that they all have a business. Every single one of them. They have a business. The reason they're able to make basically uncapped revenue is because they all have a business. And that day in 2015, what really hit my mind is, Samuel, if you want to start associating yourself with the wealth you've been reading about, if you want to start associating yourself and achieving the wealth you're thinking about, if you want to start getting where you fit in, if you want to start becoming who you desire to become so you can do what you really require to do in order for you to have what you honestly desire to have, all you got to do, Samuel, is one simple thing. You need a business, bro. You need a business. Now, obviously, that comes with other ramifications, like learning how to win in business. Obviously, many of you guys know I have a coaching program called the Roundtable. On our Roundtable, we have people that are investing £50,000 as an investment to learn how to win in business. Now, most of those are property businesses, but again, some of those people are in different vernaculars. We've had people who own universities in the UK. We've had people who own social housing businesses. We have people who own like different kinds of businesses, right? But the reality is, yes, you're gonna have to learn how to do business, but success leaves clues. The key is to do business. So with that being said, let's recap before we wrap up. And guys, for those of you who got value in today's session, just throw your key takeaway. What's the one thing that you learned or you took away or you were maybe inspired by or motivated by hearing in this live that maybe you were not thinking about prior, right? So as a quick recap, we live in a world where as of the year 2000, when we entered the information age, we were told what we were entering, but we weren't told what it means. The information age meant for the first time, according to business metrics of supply and demand, we were entering into a time, a space where things would matter. Those of you in science know what I'm talking about. Where for the first time, the supply of information was going to far exceed the demand for information. As a result, what that means is that the value of information went to zero. It's no longer valuable. And because of that, we will have an issue. And the school system that we've all been a part of, no matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter if you're in the UK, if you're in the US of A, Australasia or Asia, wherever you are in the world, we have been taught to focus on, seek, and to become addicted to information. Now, information is valueless, so if we're all seeking after information, we're all seeking after something which lacks any real value. What I've shared with you today is if you want to have incremental progress, you need to stop focusing on information and start focusing on organization. And for those of you who missed the section, go watch this replay if you can get access to it, because you will understand how you can generate incremental progress in your life by literally just shifting what you've been trying to use to help you. Stop using information, start using at least organization so you can at least have incremental progress in your life. But I don't want you to settle for incremental progress. I want you to achieve exponential progress. And in order to get exponential progress, you need to develop from someone who's focused on using organization, someone who's definitely not focused on using information, and to being someone who's finally, by the grace of God, using association. Now, guys, I'm going to give you a minute or two. If you got a question for me, according to some of the things I've shared, I will literally take a question. I'll take one because of the time. But guys, throw a question. If you've got a question about something I've shared, feel free to throw it in. Guys, I assure you, when you start focusing on association, connecting dots, that will produce more elevation for you than all of the years you focused on organization and all of the decades you focused on information. And I can assure you that for real. With that being said, guys, let me know if there are any questions. If there are, throw them inside of the chat. I will take one question before we wrap up, just for the sake of time. So whoever's got a question, throw it in fast. And whoever's fastest, I will take the first question that comes in. And if we don't have any questions, then equally, I will wrap up for today's session and bid you an awesome and ultimate farewell. All right, so let's throw the 1 minute timer up and see if you guys have any questions. All right, so we'll give you guys a minute in case you do have any questions. And if you do have questions, throw them in real quick. And as I've mentioned, I will take the first question that comes in. And then after that, we will be out of here. All right. So guys, this is the key, guys. This is the literal map that I would encourage you to start following to get out of the situation where you feel broke or broken and get into the situation where you can start no longer just hoping, but you will literally start achieving everything that you desire to achieve. It's super simple. All you got to do is graduate from focusing on information, elevate past organization, and tap into achieving literal association, like starting to associate things, connect dots, right? And a question you might be asking, no one's asked this question, but a question you might be asking is, Samuel, when you say association, like, how do I do that in my real life? Well, I'll give you an example, right? Scientific principles like the law of momentum, scientific principles like the law of all of them, right? All of them, right? The law of magnitude, the law of inertia, the law of polarity, right? All the scientific principles connect and relate to everything else. They connect and relate to things that are associated with your wealth. They connect to and relate to anything else that is true. So become someone who recognizes how to focus on truth. Because when you become someone who recognizes how to focus on truth, guess what? Everything changes for you. You start becoming someone who says to yourself, oh, I get it now. Like, this is connected to this, is connected to this. This thing in business is connected to this thing in my Bible, which is connected to this thing in science, which is connected to this thing in maths, which is connected to this thing in my relationship in marriage. And the only way you can start doing that, ladies and gentlemen, is when you actually start focusing on principles instead of tactics. And most people are so fixated on tactics because they spend all their time focused on information that they can't get ahead. So if that being said, guys, good day, God bless, love you guys. We got no questions within the 60 seconds. So I look forward to seeing you guys on another one. And guys, look, if you got value out of this, share this video or this replay if you can with someone else. And I say if you can, because I know on some platforms, wherever this is being broadcasted, you may not have a replay. But guys, listen, share this information. Show someone else how to move further, faster in their future as well. And then side by side with that, guys, if you want to reach out to me, connect with me, feel free to do so. I'm here, happy to help, guys. DM me on whatever platform or use Instagram. Instagram's the best for DMing me, but direct message me on Instagram and I'll see how I can help you. With that being said, good day, God bless, love you guys, and I'll see you on another one. Take care. Let's go.